Welcome to Corvette Today, the podcast that talks about everything Corvette, with your host Steve Garrett, MC and DJ at one of the largest Corvette weekends in the country, Corvette Fun Fest, president of the Corvette Club of Kansas City, Missouri, and radio disc jockey at the #1 radio station in Kansas City for over 40 years. Here's Steve Garrett.
Thanks for listening to Corvette Today, the podcast that talks about everything Corvette. I'm your host, Steve Garrett. I appreciate you tuning in. You can listen to Corvette Today on all podcast platforms. You can also listen on your smart device. Just say Alexa or Hey Google, play the podcast called Corvette Today, and you're connected. Also, visit the Corvette Today website. It's CorvetteTodayPodcast.com. And while you're there, make sure you visit the Corvette Today merchandise store. You can also sign up for Corvette Today emails, notifications, and updates at corvettetoday.ck.page. And don't forget, join the Corvette Today Facebook group. We have over 3,000 members, and I'd love to have you as a member as well. I'm also excited to tell you about the new YouTube channel for Corvette Today. Be sure and check it out and see your favorite Corvette Today podcasts now on YouTube. First, I'd like to thank our flagship sponsors of Corvette Today, AEROLARRI Wheels, a true forged wheel with over 20 unique design styles to choose from for your C8 and wide-body versions of the C7, C6, and C5 Corvette. It's an absurd value starting at only $19.88 for a set of 4 fully forged wheels. And use the promo code CT100 for Corvette Today 100 and get $100 off your purchase. Visit AEROLARRI.com. That's AEROLARRI.com and use the promo code CT100 for your $100 discount. Also, Corvette Fever magazine. Corvette Fever has been relaunched with an online and printed version. The online version has incredible interactivity with hidden photos and information, and the printed version is nothing like you've ever seen before, huge and glossy. Get your free online version at CorvetteFeverMag.com. You can also sign up for the printed version there as well. Corvette Fever magazine, come along for the ride. Also, MidEngineCorvetteForum.com, the forum that focuses on the new mid-engine C8 Corvette. Meet a lot of fellow Corvette enthusiasts like yourself at MidEngineCorvetteForum.com. Also, a shout out to CanadianCorvetteForum.com, welcoming Corvette owners from around the world. My guest on Corvette Today has published a book on Corvettes for women. It's called Ladies and Vets, a guide for the female Corvette enthusiast. She also has a Facebook group called Ladies and Vets. We're going to be talking about both of those today on the show, and we're going to give away a copy of Ladies and Vets' book. I'd like to welcome to the show June Barlett. June, welcome to Corvette Today.
Thank you so much, Steve. How are you?
I am fine, and thank you so much for being my guest on the podcast. June, let's talk about your early years. Talk about where you grew up. Talk about your family and how your parents influenced you as a young girl.
Well, I'm originally from Jamaica, Queens, New York. I grew up in a fairly middle-class neighborhood. My parents migrated from the South in the 50s, and they wound up in Jamaica, Queens, and my mom actually is still there. She had a business in real estate. She was a real estate broker for many years, for about 40 years, and my father worked in the railroad for many years. And it's myself and my brother. We grew up there. I went to local schools in the Queens area. I wound up going out of state to school, to Morgan State University and to Hampton Institute. And I finally came back to New York and graduated from Hunter College with a degree in media studies and a minor in film. And I've always loved cars, but it took a while for me to get into the hobby. But I'm just a New Yorker.
Well, that sounds good. And everybody that's from New York loves New York and never wants to leave. That's for sure.
Yes.
Now, tell me about when you realized that you were a car person.
Well, that kind of started in my mid to late teens. There was a show on TV at that time, mid 70s to 80s, called Dallas.
Oh, yeah, I remember Dallas.
Yeah. And there was a character, Pamela Ewing. I think she was married to one of the Ewing brothers. And she drove a beautiful black on black C3 Corvette. And I just fell in love with that car and with the show and just piqued my interest in cars at that time.
Very nice. Now, what things did you do as a child that were car-related, June, that kind of brought you to where you are today as a woman and a car enthusiast?
Well, it did take me a while, as I said, to get into the hobby, but my dad always had very nice cars. He had a Cadillac, he had a Continental, and he always took care of them, kept them clean and so forth. But I didn't really get into the car hobby as far as going to attending shows and so forth. They weren't that big, in my area at that time. but I did have appreciation of cars.
That's nice. Now, what drew you to Corvettes? Was it watching Pamela Ewing on Dallas?
That kind of started it because, as I said, I still remember that car to this day. It was a beautiful black on black C3. Again, my father having the nice cars, and I had a few relatives who had some nice cars, Mustangs and so forth. The Corvette started, my attention to them really kind of started in my early 20s, and I started to notice them a lot more. I even had a dream that my parents had bought me a black on black C3 like Pamela's, and I got up that next day to look to see if it was in the driveway. Of course, I was disappointed, no Corvette. But as I started to look at cars more and I noticed the Corvettes, I just loved the stance of them, the performance of them. It just grew on me. And for me, at this point in my life, there is no other car. Corvette is it.
That was it. That's for sure. Now, as you were growing up, were you in some car clubs or Corvette clubs as you were becoming a young adult and then an adult?
I wasn't in any clubs growing up as an adult, but I did get into the hobby. For my first marriage, we had a 82 Collectors. We bought that in 1993, and I joined a car club, a local club out here called Long Island Corvette Owners Association, like COA. So we belonged to that in 93, and then I had my first child in 94, so wasn't room for both of them in our lives at the time, so I sold the 82 Collectors, which I loved. At that time, of course, it was family first, so I vowed to get another one, and I did in 2004. I bought my second Corvette. I bought my 1981 Corvette, which I still have. I'm actually selling it now, but I still have that, had it for 17 years. And I just wanted to get something that I could fix up. So I bought it very cheaply, and I just put money into it year after year. I do a little something to it. So then I started to get more into the Corvette hobby. I started a club here. I was approached actually to start a club, and I became the secretary and then later the president of a club called the National Afro-American Corvette Club, NAACC. They originated in Texas, and they started to branch out to start other chapters. So that chapter went on for a little bit, and then they dissolved, and we became a member of another group called the Queens Classic Club. And I'm still the vice president of that club, and we're still together till this day. We have 2 shows a year. We have all types of cars. We have Corvettes, we have Lamborghinis, we have Mustangs, we have every old school car you can think of. Our last show was in September. We had about 142 cars. We have a blast. It's a good time to bring everybody from the different boroughs into New York, and we just have a good time.
That sounds like so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
Well, June, let's take our first break, and in segment number 2, we're going to talk more about your book, Ladies and Vets, A Guide to the Female Corvette Enthusiast. We're talking with June Barlett on Corvette Today.
Stretch the life of your Corvette's paint with NovaStretch Performance Protective Covers. NovaStretch covers provide superior protection for your C5 through C8 Corvette, utilizing stretch fabric technology and an innovative fastening system for quick installation and easy removal and storage. Made in the USA for a tailored fit, the patented design and breathable mesh protects your Corvette without rubbing or chafing the paint like traditional bras. And unlike clear film solutions, NovaStretch provides full front-end coverage including the grille, keeping radiators and heat exchangers clean without creating airflow issues. Visit novastretch.com and use the code CorvetteToday15 to get 15% off your order. Protect your Corvette with NovaStretch.
Hey, honey, are you awake?
I am now.
I can't sleep. Since turning 50, I keep dreaming of a red door and a blue door, somehow knowing there are only choices for retirement.
Okay.
Through the red door, we outlive our money. We have to rely on our kids. We're stuck on a fixed income. It's terrifying.
Yeah, that would suck.
But through the blue door, our money outlives us. We retire on our terms. Our kids stay our kids, not our caretakers. We make work optional.
Yes, that's much better. That's what I want too. But what do we do?
We call True Wealth & Company at 913-653-8783. They specialize in helping successful people make work optional. They're our fiduciary Blue Door personal wealth managers.
Hey, where are you going? It's 3 a.m.
I can't sleep. I'm going to check out True Wealth & Company online at retirewithtrue.com. That Blue Door is going to be our retirement.
913-653-8783. Visit us online at retirewithtrue.com. Investment advice offered through True Wealth & Company, LLC, a registered investment advisor in the state of Kansas.
And now, back to Corvette Today with your host and my husband, Steve Garrett.
Hey, thanks for listening to Corvette Today, the podcast that talks about everything Corvette. I'm your host, Steve Garrett. With me today is June Barlett. June has written a book called Ladies and Vets, A Guide to the Female Corvette Enthusiast. And in segment number 2, we're going to talk about that book. June, tell me about what motivated you to write this book, Ladies and Vets.
Well, basically, it was just the love of the hobby. You know, me being a female, I'm a member of actually 2 clubs here in New York, and I'm on the board of a club outside of New York. I'd go into different meetings and different shows and so forth. And I love my brothers. They were all very helpful, very courteous to me. But I was just missing the female friendships within the club. So there aren't a lot of women in most of the clubs that I've seen or coming to some of the shows. So a friend of mine, Teresa Marshall, I call her T, we became friends actually from attending the New York Auto Show here many years ago. So we started corresponding and so forth. She even started an online female group also. And then we said, it would be so nice if we had something that relate to women more so than anything. So we decided to write the book. So she started writing a portion of it. I started writing a portion of it. It took us about 2 years, and we got it done through a lot of emailing and talking and breaks and so forth. But the purpose of the book is just really to bring women together, to introduce women who are new to the hobby, especially Corvettes, and just tell them about the different things, what to expect in being a Corvette owner, what the hobby is about.
That sounds great, because if it took you 2 years, you guys really did your research, you and Teresa did. Is there anything else that you have included in the book that was kind of the premise for really motivating and writing this book?
Well, in the book, we have a few different chapters. One thing that I really wanted to emphasize is what women have done and contributed to the auto industry. So we have a small chapter in there as women who shook the auto industry, talking about various women who did different things. For instance, Florence Lawrence. Florence Lawrence was a female who actually invented the first vehicle turn indicator. And she did that all by herself back in the 1900s. Charlotte Bridgewood, she invented the storm windshield cleaner back in 1917. So who would think that your indicator on your car was invented by a woman and your storm windshield cleaner was invented by a woman? You would never think that. So these are the things we wanted to bring women's attention to. I listed even some of the celebrity Corvette owners like Cindy Crawford, Farrah Fawcett had a 1970, Patti LaBelle has a 1963 C2, Kendall Jenner has a 56 C1, people like that. Again, you wouldn't think that we're in the hobby. We also have a section in the book about car care, which is something most women don't think of. Most women who have the newer vets, they may not take care of them themselves. Much they might have them detailed by a company. But the older vets like mine, a C3, you would take care of it yourself. You never take a Corvette to the car wash. That's very taboo. You just don't do that because they're so low to the ground. Just knowing how to wash your car. In the book, there's an article about car care and using a 2-bucket system where you wash in one bucket and rinse in another bucket. And how do you start washing the car from the bottom up, section by section? You wash the tires and so forth. You wash the sections by themselves and so forth. We wanted just to bring a lot of information. It's just a guide. We're not experts, but we wanted just to expose women and tell them about certain things that they should be doing with their car.
It was really nice to read. And also, your book is very extensive also about the different generations of Corvettes and pricing as well, June. Talk about where you did your research and gather all that information.
Well, we did a lot of research. We got some information from the internet. We got some information from the Corvette Black Book. I just thought it would be interesting to gather and really talk about each generation. In the book, we literally go from 1953 to 2017, stating exactly how many cars were made that year, whether it was a coupe, whether it was a convertible, and the price of it. And I just thought it was so interesting that in 1953, of course, it was only 300 vets at $3,400, $3,498 to be exact. That was the price of a Corvette in 53. Goes from that to the price of a vet now, which is about $62,000. I just wanted to demonstrate that, the difference in the years. And I think it's nice when you can go and look up the year of your car and you can see, okay, wow, in 1987, which is the year of my C4 I have now, they made 2007 Sport Coupes at $27,000, things like that. And then you can kind of see, according to where you are, 1987, there were 20,000. I wonder how many there are around now, and you kind of get an idea of the value of what your car should be, according to where you are with the car, according to how many cars that are left from that year and so forth.
Right. And also in the book, June, you have a very extensive list of all the Corvette clubs by state in the United States. That had to take a lot of work to compile that list.
It really did. It really did, because we wanted to keep it up to date. Actually, when we started, we had some clubs that were not even in existence, so we had to eliminate those and add in some more. But the purpose of us doing that, basically, was to make sure that women, whatever state that you're in, you can find a club. If you're in California, if you're in North Carolina, you can look in the book and say, oh, look, there's a Corvette club. Maybe I'll look them up and I'll call them. So we list the names and the person to contact, the address and phone numbers. So this way women can get more connected to the hobby and to other people within the hobby.
I thought that was fantastic. Well, June, let's take our final break, and in section number 3, we're going to talk about where you can buy the book and talk about some of the extra stuff. We're talking with June Barlett. She wrote a book called Ladies and Vets on Corvette Today.
American Hydrocarbon, your one-stop shop for custom interior, exterior, and engine bay items for your C4 through C8 Corvette. We can help you create a custom look for your Corvette with carbon fiber or 10 different color patterns and styles. We've served customers in over 28 countries all around the world. Whether it's a custom-made engine cover for your new C8 mid-engine Corvette or custom-made C4 interior upgrades, American Hydrocarbon can help you transform your Corvette into a best-in-class show car. Our products have been featured in Vette and Corvette magazines, so give us a call. 813-476-5638. That's 813-476-5638. And now we're proud to announce that we can produce and distribute officially licensed GM products with the C8 Corvette. That includes the front splitter, the side skirts, engine appearance panels, and engine fluid caps. See everything on our new updated website, AmericanHydrocarbon.com. VetteFinders.com is the Internet's original Corvette classified ads website, with classified ads starting at just $25, and every ad runs until your Corvette is sold. If you're in the market for a Corvette, VetteFinders.com has over 500 Corvettes for sale from all around the USA and Canada, and covering all 8 generations. Visit VetteFinders.com, the Internet's destination for buying and selling Corvettes. That's VETTE Finders.com.
This is the Corvette Today podcast with Steve Garrett.
Hey, thank you very much for listening to Corvette Today, the podcast that talks about everything Corvette. I'm your host, Steve Garrett. With me today is June Bartlett. June has written a book called Ladies and Vets. It's a guide to the female Corvette enthusiast. In this third and final segment, we're going to talk a little bit more about the book and where you can buy the book. Now, June, before we get into all that, I've always seen the Corvette 10 Commandments before, but you have a ladies' owner's Corvette 10 Commandments, don't you?
Yes, I do. Yes, we do in the book. You've already seen that somewhere. Some people just take it and change it. So we did the same thing. We just changed it around. We're just having fun with it. Said things like, always look fierce while driving your Vette. Always. Well, and that's what women do.
That's right.
Allow your husband or your boyfriend to wash thy Vette. Never let your children eat or drink in thy Vette. Drive thy Vette to release stress, and always color coordinate clothing with your Vette. So those are just a few of the things. It's just something to have fun with. Also in the book, I wanted to bring attention to a section that we named because I thought it was just so funny. Chapter 9 is, "Oh, that's cool. Your husband let you drive his Vette." Yeah, and that's an exact quote of what someone said to me actually when we were at Corvettes at Carlisle in Carlisle, Pennsylvania one year. I was actually driving my Corvette and we were coming up to the hotel. I'm behind the wheel and the guy gets out of a pickup truck, "Oh, that's cool. He lets you drive his Corvette." And it's my car. I'm behind it. But it just goes to show you that most men and most people don't really expect women to be driving these cars. So we thought it would be funny just to add that to the book. And I got quotes from different women and different quotes of them, things like that being said to them as well.
That's so funny. Oh, good. Your husband let you drive his Corvette. That is too funny. June, let's talk about where people can purchase Ladies and Vets, because the holiday season is coming up. This would be a terrific holiday gift for the woman in your Corvette life. Tell me where you can purchase Ladies and Vets, the guide to the female Corvette enthusiast.
Okay, you can contact me at Andrews, I'll spell it out, ANDREWS, V like Victor, TT like Tom, at AOL. You can contact me. I'll send you a copy, a signed copy. Just email me. I'll send it out to you right away.
And can you buy the book on Amazon as well, June?
Yes, you can. You can buy it on Amazon. Just type in Ladies and Vets, a guide for the female Corvette enthusiast, and it comes right up.
That's wonderful. And what about a phone number if someone wants to reach out to you?
Sure. You can reach me at 347-744-0819. That's 347-744-0819.
And June, you've also started a Facebook group for Ladies and Vets, haven't you?
Yes, I have. We were on our way to Corvettes in Carlisle about a year ago, and I said it'd be so nice, just to hang out and meet up with some women. So I said, maybe I'll just start a Facebook and see if anybody's interested. And lo and behold, before we went to Corvettes at Carlisle that August, this was in 2019, I had about 50 people to join, and right now we've got about 212. So it's just a fun Facebook page we get on. It's only for women because we want to keep it girly. We just get on and we share posts, about maybe what's happening in your state. If there's a show coming up, sometimes we ask questions. I want to do something to my vet. What do you think? Just different things like that. It's very friendly, very nice. It's just fun.
That's fantastic, June. Well, congratulations on all this.
Thank you.
And I tell you what, June has been gracious enough to give us one autographed copy of the book. So if you'd like to win a copy of Ladies and Vets, a guide to the female Corvette enthusiast, you can write to me this week, steve@CorvetteTodayPodcast.com, to get in the running. And we'll choose one winner, and June will sign the book and mail it to you for the holidays. June, thank you so much for being my guest on Corvette Today. This has been a lot of fun. Continued success and all the best to you with your book, Ladies and Vets.
Thank you, Steve, so much for having me. I certainly appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Corvette Today, and please be sure to tell your family, friends, and other Corvette enthusiasts about the Corvette Today podcast. And also thanks to our flagship sponsors, American Hydrocarbon at AmericanHydrocarbon.com, True Wealth and Company at RetireWithTrue.com. Also, AEROLARRI Wheels, get $100 off your purchase with the promo code CT100 at AEROLARRI.com. Also, Nova Stretch Bras. Use the code Corvette Today 15 and get 15% off your total purchase at novastretch.com.
You've been listening to Corvette Today with Steve Garrett. If you'd like to contact Steve with any thoughts on the podcast or ideas for guests on Corvette Today, you can email him at stevegarrettdj@gmail.com. That's stevegarrettdj@gmail.com. Garrett has 2 R's and 2 T's. Or connect with Steve on social media on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram using @SteveGarrettDJ. Thanks again for listening to Corvette Today.